Buenos dias, shitheads. Thanks for visiting the channel. My name's Scott, and this is Question Everything. If you're watching this video on Let's Do It Up, I apologize about the confusion. I started a new channel, this channel, called Question Everything. I've only got a couple, 22 subscribers, I think. So currently, there is no traction on that channel. Every video that I posted, or every video that I post is not going to get a whole lot of traction just because there's no subscribers on that channel. So for the time being, I'm going to be uploading my videos for Question Everything on both channels, just so they can get some traction. And once I get some more subscribers over on Question Everything, I will stop doing that. If you don't want to see these videos, that's fine. The thumbnails are going to clearly differentiate between which videos are knife videos and which videos are these. So I guess just don't watch these ones, I guess. Also, I've gotten a few comments from people which have indicated to me anyway that I should just stop paying attention to everything going on in the world. Stop embracing the negative energy and go out and do something to fix the problem instead. So I don't think these people making these comments were paying attention to the video, or maybe they just watched the first couple of minutes of it and then just went and commented on it, which doesn't really make any sense, because if you don't know what people said, you don't know what they covered in the video. Just saying. But it doesn't really surprise me if nobody watched it for very long, because our attention span has been whittled down to basically nothing these days anyway. But that's what I was trying to say, guys. Nobody's paying attention to anything. And I understand that it's easier to not pay attention to things. But you got to pay attention to things. Very few people understand what is happening in our country right now. They just think people are just losing their minds, and they don't understand why. But I don't think they really care to look. I mean, they're not wrong. You know, the reasons that these people are losing their minds are out there. If you care to pay attention to any of it, or really critically look at any of it, and ask why it's happening, and try to figure that out, I think that's much more productive. And I try to do the best I can to do the most productive thing and the best thing at the same time. So the vast majority of our society has been choosing to be oblivious to all of this, and that is, of course, by design. It's you know, something that I don't want to get too far into that. We'll get into that later. But everyone says the system is broken. The system is broken. The system is working exactly as it was intended to work. All of this is what the people instituting the rules want to happen. It just is. Anyway, I did what I always do for these comments. I said to these people, well, listen, you know, I asked them why they felt that way, and I made sure that I was clear on what they intended to say. And I also explained that I wasn't trying to be confrontational or anything like that. I wanted to discuss the issue further, and I was wondering if they were interested in discussing the issue further. Currently, none of the people responded to that response. So, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they were interested in really talking about it. I think that they just wanted to tell me to stop whining, and that's fantastic. But I'm not really whining. I'm just trying to get information out there so that people can make informed decisions again. It's been a few years. So, oh, by the way, I got my mug. I'm so happy to have this thing. I really love it. If this pisses you off, then that's fantastic. Good for you. Anyway, sorry guys. That being said, tonight I want to talk about a few things that are going on that may have been what may have been the cause of what's going on. And we're also going to talk about the university protest. Obviously, we have to talk about those idiots. I don't really want to call them protests. I mean, these guys are just going around vandalizing property. And anyway, And also, we're going to be talking about something else that's happened recently in the country. A couple of guys put in prison, but we'll cover all that in a little bit here. Sorry. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is that there is a new city in the United States now. The city of St. George, Louisiana, has seceded successfully from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I guess a gentleman there, he grew up there, moved away, lived his life, had a family, came back because that's where he grew up and he loved it there. And when he got back, the schools were not as great as he thought they were. He ended up working, I think, as a PE teacher or something like that in one of the schools. And the current state of the schools as he saw them was unacceptable. Fighting, no discipline, no consequences for anyone's actions, things like that. So he helped start a movement to help that area secede from the state of Louisiana in order for them to be able to enforce their own rules, their own laws, the way that they want to enforce them, and raise their children in the way that they would like to raise them. And I applaud that. I absolutely 100% do. I totally understand why they did what they did. But unfortunately, there's some people that are happy about it, and there's some people that aren't happy about it, and well, we're gonna get into that anyway. So, the area. Let me see here. I brought up the story just so I wouldn't forget anything about it. So recent issues had also come up with the state funding not being proportionate. Basically, they were saying that they bring in a certain portion of income and resources for the state, and that they weren't being proportionately supported for that. Bottom line, I guess, is that the state is more focused on making sure that everyone has an equal share, regardless of their contribution to the state. And I guess the citizens got fed up with all this, and they got tired of getting the smelly end of the stick, and they decided to secede from the state. A reaction I think that anyone would have had in that particular situation. Again, this has happened before. Local politicians always end up being able to block the attempts of these people to secede, which that's not really reassuring to me, I guess. I mean, you don't want to be a part of this group anymore? Well, what are you calling overcooked chicken breast? Tough titties. You're staying under state control, and you're gonna like it. How's that for freedom, guys? I don't understand. I never really thought about it before. Never really got into politics. Never really got into any of that bullshit. But I never thought about a state seceding. I just never thought about it. And now that I've thought about it, it scares the shit out of me. I mean, anyway, in 2019, voters approved the ballot initiative to create St. George, which was met with years and years of legal battles, apparently 4 or 5 years of legal battles, which ended last week when the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled 4-3 decision that St. George can incorporate or become an independent legal entity separate from Baton Rouge, but not separate from Louisiana. So they're just going to be another state. St. George will be a 60 square mile area with a population more than 85,000 residents, making it one of the largest states in the city. Having their own mayor, city council, public service, etc. Obviously, there are a lot of people that are really happy about this, but obviously lots of people aren't happy at all about it. We can cover all that another time. Just if you want to see more about the story, you can just go ask Matt Walsh. That's where I got all the information anyway. So that's where I got a lot of the information that I just gave you anyway, or that I'm about to give you. So if you want to see more about this particular story in depth, then just go to Matt Walsh's channel. You'll be able to find this information there. But for now, let's just look at the optics of the situation, because it's fucked up. It really, really is. First of all, pretend you're a state. Just pretend you're a state. Now, if your leadership had allowed a minority of the population take over and control the majority of the population, then someone says, hey, I don't really like this, I want out. I'd rather take my chances on the other side, on my own. Would you really try to stop them? Or would you be embarrassed and let them go before the situation becomes any more uncomfortable than it already is? Would you see the situation for what it is and make a pledge to yourself to spend the rest of your life trying to reverse the situation and stop the madness? I don't get it. Do you guys remember what happened the last time large groups of people seceded from the country? It got ugly, fucking quick. And now it's a cautionary tale to make people think twice before they, start fucking war. I know this is nothing like entire states seceding from the country. I'm not sure how all that got started, but I'm betting it looked something similar to this. I'm guessing. I don't know that for sure. I could be wrong, but this doesn't seem fucking healthy at all. The past should definitely be strongly considered when deciding how we react to certain situations. So while I understand the cessation, I don't even know how you say it, but while I understand why they did it, how it happened, I get it. It just scares the shit out of me. So anyway, bottom line is, if we can talk to each other in a mature and rational manner, we'll be able to find a viable compromise to our differences and figure it out. But unfortunately, I don't have much faith in that happening. Whatever happens, we cannot continue to revert to our more base impulses, which will inevitably end in bloodshed. It's a cycle that we have to break. Fish out. I know we've been in a lot of wars, but being good at war is not really something that promises for a long, long life. Just my opinion. Now, let's get to those pesky little protesters. Those fucking assholes. Now, I know that you guys probably know a lot of this bullshit, but just in case. Over the last week or so, hundreds and hundreds of protesters have been occupying public areas and buildings on college campuses across the country, setting up temporary encampments, tents, and makeshift shelters, blocking off large areas of campuses, in some cases hindering students from being able to get to their classes. Protesters obviously not going to class, and vandalizing private property, spray painting graffiti, leaving garbage everywhere, making this seem reminiscent of the aftermath of Woodstock, either the original or the one in '99. Take your pick, kind of a mixture of the two. Initiating and participating in violence against other students, security staff, and police officers. Now, even though these people have imposed this situation on the university, they started making demands that the university, as I understand it, stop doing business with Israel, stop doing business with Israeli organizations, or anyone who does business with anyone who does business with Israel. I'm pretty sure I got that right. It doesn't matter. So, not only that, and this is real, and this is... Here are 3 lists submitted by one of the groups of protesters. I call them idiots, but they call themselves protesters. Just in case you haven't seen these, it's so funny. I haven't been able to make it through any of these without laughing, so let's see what happens. So, here are the 3. List 1, for the medical tent. They want a table, heat gloves, wound packing gauze, portable chargers, Kerlix gauze, a CAT tourniquet, ACE bandages, 4x4 gauze, ABD pads, goggles, emergency bandages, trauma shears, Vaseline. What's the Vaseline for? Tweezers, CPR masks, butterfly suture closures, disposable stethoscopes, camping sink, buckets with lids. What do you think those are for? Helmets, HIV tests, dental dams, Plan B, Diva cups, chapstick, Mylar blankets, contact solution and cases, IFAC pouches. Those are kind of individual first aid kits, kind of like a little pooch goes on your belt. And the CAT tourniquet. That's just basically, I can't remember what the actual acronym stands for, but it's just a tourniquet. Combat something tourniquet. It's just a strap that has a loop on it, and you can pull it down and strap and Velcro it together. That's all it is. Nothing fancy. But these are terms and things that. So if you've never heard of it, chances are it's a controlled medical product. So if you've never heard of it, chances are they don't have. Why would they have access to that? How would they know what that shit is? I don't understand. I mean, unless one of them like works in a clinic or something, and they started telling everybody, oh, with all this, oh, get this and that and this and that and this and that. And so, okay. So they were going to have a huge bloody war and lose life and limb, apparently. And then they were going to have an orgy. No. So, okay, so it started off with the orgy. And then they would follow up with maybe mountain climbing. And then they'd have the bloody war where they all lost life and limb. So the list for the care tent: COVID tests, battery-powered lanterns, flashlights. They didn't put batteries on the list. So just make sure you guys put batteries on the list, because you're going to need those too. Duh. Behind the ear mask buffers, parentheses, to take pressure off from wearing masks for a long time. Oh, that's what those are for? Oh, okay. Okay, pumpkin. More portable chargers. I'm assuming using their electricity is implied or assumed or whatever. That's the end of that list. Now, the last list is much shorter. However, I think I know why that is. So for the food tent, they wanted serving utensils and serving bowls. That was it. So there was a young girl that was, I can't remember which university specifically it was, but she called the press because they told them that the school was allowing them to starve to death. So when the reporters got there with their cameras, this, that, and the other, they're ready to go. And this girl does this little press interview, and while they're talking to her, they won't let us, they won't bring us food, and going on and on about it. And one of the reporters says to her, he says, well, how can you expect them to provide food and water when you're basically just here for, this protest, but you're actually, acting more towards civil disobedience than a protest. In a protest, you do your thing for, 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever it is, and then you move on with your life. You're choosing to stay here, so how can you expect them to bring you food and water? And this girl says, oh, I just don't want them to violently stop us from bringing food and water into the university. What? What are you talking about? Why the fuck would they violently stop you from bringing in food and water? It doesn't make any sense. I, I don't understand it, guys. I don't. These people place themselves in this situation, and they expected the university to make it as comfortable as possible for them. The level of entitlement is so much further off the rails than I thought it was. It really, really is. So when all this shit started at the universities, I had no idea what the hell was the matter with these kids. I didn't know. I didn't understand why they were protesting. I had no idea. I just thought they were being assholes. So I decided to look more into it. I found out, they were protesting because they wanted the universities to stop having anything to do with Israel because they're, attacking Palestine, whatever. I don't understand it. So I looked around. I found out what was happening. But I came across this interview that Jordan Peterson did. You guys are going to hear me talk about him a lot on this channel. I love Jordan Peterson. He's a really good influence in people's lives right now, in my opinion, especially for young men out there. You guys know that basically men are under attack right now between, but just everything. I don't want to get too far into it because I'll just go on and on and on and on and on. So, anyway, I was watching an interview that Jordan Peterson did with somebody named Victor Davis Hanson. I've seen him before, but I never really paid a lot of attention to him. I've seen him on Tucker Carlson and a couple other places, but he's a very intelligent man, very, very smart, very well-spoken. So he's a notable American military historian and conservative political commentator. And in this interview, he had a lot of interesting things to say, and there was a lot of interesting information going back and forth there and everything. But there was something that struck me about one particular part of the interview. Hansen described that people that were more on the right half of the political spectrum began to lose faith in all the governmentally subsidized institutions, law enforcement, military, educational institutions, stuff like that. Both classrooms and universities combined, just regular school and college. They began to lose faith in all of those institutions because of the greed and corruption and all that other shit that was going on in those institutions. So when that happened, those institutions, those organizations, whatever you want to call it, they needed support. They needed funding, they needed this, that. So Hansen said that once these institutions lost the support of the right, the left offered to support them wholeheartedly, basically, as long as they followed their narratives and because they liked the fact that these institutions were filled with greedy, selfish people who felt that they could, do whatever they wanted as far as government overreach, persecution, locking people up for absolutely no reason. They were happy about that. That was attractive to them, Hansen said. So, simply because somebody doesn't share the same views as them or they're not in the same class as them, that means that they're just too stupid or irrelevant to rule their own lives. So they in institutions, colleges, stuff like that, they fill curriculums with useless liberal arts classes along with mandatory classes such as statistics or religious persons or common social problems, stuff like that. Trust me, I know. I had to take all of those classes in nursing school. Classes like these are added to a curriculum simply to keep you enrolled and money coming in. Things like that. So, the left was happy about that sort of thing. Help them make money, all that stuff. So they understood that when the... it's hard for me to really... educational institutions in this country have been destroyed, basically. So I think they were saying that basically one of the reactions of that, or one of the subsequent side effects of that, was basically people taking over from the left in all these schools and wanting the money rolling in, and not really caring about the quality of education and this, that, and the other thing, mixed with everything going on with these kids not really having to be responsible for anything at home before they get there. So they're already entitled. And then, once you get these kids into school, the school doesn't really want to get too far into anything. They don't want to take serious stances on anything, and they don't really want to discipline anybody. So now they have these kids coming to school there at these liberal institutions, and they say, well, we want to have this protest, and they say, well, okay, that's fine, you can be here if you want to be here, but when we tell you you have to leave, you have to leave. And then they tell them that they have to leave, and they don't leave. Well, then they're stuck. So it kind of seems like they've done this to themselves, as far as propagating everything from the left and pushing these agendas and this, that, and the other, and making everybody woke. And now it seems like the roosters are coming home. The chickens are coming home to roost. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know exactly, but it was really interesting when they did the interview. I'm going to link that interview on this video along with another video from something else that I want to talk about, just in case you guys are interested. But I really think that the state of our educational systems in our country has been under attack for a very long time, and it needs to be reformed. Period. The quality of students coming out of these schools. So about like 30 years ago, you could take anybody out of one of those Ivy League schools and put them into your business, and you knew exactly what you were getting. Now they don't know what they're getting. They have no idea. I read a report somewhere that 75%, they did some kind of a poll where they asked like 100 different companies, the top 100 companies in America, certain questions, and it turned out that 75% of these people used to do a lot of their hiring just based on where somebody got their diploma from. But now they're no longer willing to do that, simply because they've had a lot of people coming into these places that had really poor work attitude or a poor work ethic, poor cooperation with administrative staff, and the biggest problem that they said was a radically inflated sense of self entitlement. Does that sound familiar? When I interviewed for my job, I think it was about almost a year ago, it was the longest job interview I had ever been in. Prior to that point, I had gone into job interviews 10, 15 minutes max, and you were done. That was the end of it. These people just figured, when you walked in there and sat down, they just assumed you were a decent human being. So as long as you were qualified for the job and you wanted it, boom, there you go. And now people have to make sure that you're not some kind of crazy asshole or lazy asshole. So they have to spend more time with people and try to get a feel for what kind of person they are. These idiots are actually making it harder for themselves to be treated equally. I can't fucking believe any of this shit. Now again, I don't think the younger generation deserves to bear the entire responsibility of the way that they are. I mean, I meant to say this in my last video, but I completely forgot to say it. It's only your fault if someone points it out to you and you don't hate yourself enough to do something about it. So if you're seeing this, I'm pointing it out to you. If you're one of these people. So now it's on you. So now, certainly last, but certainly not least, so a gentleman on April 10th and his business partner on April 11th were both arrested in Pennsylvania, near Lancaster, I believe. I only said it that way because one was arrested on one day and the other was arrested on another day, which is fucking weird. But anyway, neither here nor there. These two men, they were dairy farmers, and they started an animal husbandry support business called Noble. Sounds like the word noble, but it's spelled capital N-O, capital B-U-L-L. So it's kind of a play on words there. It's super funny. So they started this business helping people with their animal husbandry. I've always had trouble with that word. It's just a fucking weird word. So, long story short, in 2010, the Department of State, initiated by the Veterinary Board, filed complaints against these two men for license violation for using an ultrasound to check the status of a cow's uterine health. They weren't checking the status of a cow or a calf or a baby or anything like that. They were just checking the status of the cow's uterine health before the farmer was going to artificially inseminate the cow. Anybody texts me that that's rape, I will ignore it. So anyway, when I was a nurse at the hospital many years ago, I was on an infusion team where we would start central line catheters, basically a catheter that goes into the arm, threads all the way to the heart, and you have to use an ultrasound to put those in. I did not have a medical degree. I was not a licensed physician. I was a licensed nurse, but you don't have to be a licensed nurse or licensed anything to be able to possess or own or operate an ultrasound machine. When I used it, it was just, I think I trained on it for like 4 hours and I was proficient with it. It's not rocket surgery. Just about anybody can do it. These guys weren't using it to diagnose anything or treat anything or anything like that. They were just checking the status of the cow's uterus. That's it. You can buy these things online, for God's sakes. So anyway, the board makes another complaint, which went to civil court. And for one reason or another, an order of imprisonment was signed by the civil court judge, initiated and executed by the police. This is an important distinction because civil court judges don't necessarily typically sign imprisonment or even arrest warrants for criminal actions. Those are more civil cases, traffic violations, stuff like that. So anyway, what happened was one day these guys were at home, and in front of their entire families, the police came in and put them in handcuffs and took them directly to the local prison, I believe in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Now, if you don't already know the difference between prison and jail, jail is like the police station. That's where you go to be processed and held until you've been tried and sentenced, I believe, is how that works. Now, once you're sentenced, then you go to the prison. That's the place where you're going to spend the vast majority of your sentence. Everything up until that point is jail or a police station or some kind of a holding area, something like that. Excuse me. So, these guys have been in prison for almost 30 days now. The one went in on the 10th, the other one on the 11th. I don't know what today is, but it's somewhere around there. Pretty close to a month. So, they didn't have any complaints in the 4 years prior to their last, complaint from the Veterinary Board or whatever. It had been 4 years since they complained or whatever to the state, 4 years since they sent them a citation or a notice or whatever. No follow-up of prior complaints before that. They were never charged with any criminal acts. They were never stood trial, and they never were sentenced. So what the fuck are these guys doing in prison? if this was some kid who missed 3 parole hearings, skipped out on house arrest, and then beat the shit out of somebody who owed him money, everybody would be up in arms talking about freeing him. Let's say his name is Bartholomew. Free Bartholomew! Free Bartholomew! I can already hear it. But I just happened to come across this on my YouTube feed. It wasn't recommended to me by a friend, or this is the first I've heard about this, and it happened almost a month ago. Why isn't this shit all over the news? I don't understand. I don't get that. I mean, yeah, it's 2 white guys, but I don't care. It wouldn't matter whether they were black or Asian or whatever. It wouldn't matter to me. It was the simple fact that 2 farmers got put in prison with no due process whatsoever. They were just, you're in prison. I'm gonna link this video in the description. Please go watch it because it's fucking scary. It's fucking scary. So I just don't understand why the whole fucking country isn't rallying over these 2 poor bastards. You know, I think I don't know why this might have happened, but why people were complaining about these guys using a fucking ultrasound, I don't understand it. I don't understand the whole situation, and I don't know why somebody would want to do that to somebody. Now they did question the guy at the veterinary board or something like that, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, what he's doing is against the law," which he's saying that he's using an ultrasound to perform medical treatment without a license, which that is illegal, but that's not what he was doing. So, you know, he says, well, I know that, but I don't know anything about him being put in prison. I don't know anything about that. I don't have any control over that whatsoever. So basically, everybody's just washed their hands of the situation, and these guys have been sitting in prison for a month. I don't know how I would react to that situation. I can't imagine it would be well. At all. And so, I don't want to be presumptuous here, but as far as why this happened, I'm sure the veterinary board there is regulated or run or whatever by some corporate whoever the fuck. And who says that these big wigs didn't hear about these guys going around doing this probably cheaper than the veterinary board was able to that what they had to charge, and they didn't like that too much, so they decided to get these 2 young men thrown into prison for peddling on their turf. I know it sounds conspiratorial, but does it though? I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I know the government is always looking for cheaper ways to do things. In Pennsylvania, you do have to be licensed. You do have to be a licensed medical profession in order to pass medications in Pennsylvania to patients. But Pennsylvania is incredibly conservative. Always has been. In most other states, they use med techs. A nurse prepares the meds for each patient, and then the med tech kind of distributes them, which is great for the corporation that owns the facility, because that way they can make the nurse do 2 or 3 other jobs, and that way the med tech can just go and get minimum wage to pour pills down your loved one's throats. That's what's happening, guys. On the other end, though, it opens up opportunities for missed medications, incorrect medications being given, too much medications or not enough of the medication being delivered, and diversion of medication, basically, which means, you know, if somebody's being given a pain pill, say they're getting 2 pain pills, the nurse might just take 1 for somebody who's a little bit confused and doesn't really know the difference. And there's no way for anybody to know anything about any of it. So what happens when the med tech notices that, you know, a few extra pills or a few less pills or completely different pills in a cup for a particular patient? You honestly think that 100% of the time that the med tech is going to go and ask the nurse, hey, are you sure these are the right meds for Mr. Bartholomew? Listen, if you work in any form of medicine, you have a mental illness. It just is. That's just what it is. Actually, it usually helps a little bit to do your job better. It helps to be a little bit crazy to be in the medical profession. I'm sure everybody that watches that's in the medical profession will agree with me on that. But a lot of these people aren't very nice. And they tend to get a little snarky when it's like a nurse or somebody, you know, somebody that has a couple of letters after their name on their badge, and someone who doesn't questions them. They can get ugly fast. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. Are you willing to take that chance? That the person giving your loved ones pills would go and ask the nurse if she's sure that they got the right pills? I wouldn't. Not a chance. So what do we do? I don't know. Most of the states in this country, yeah, they're going to be comfortable with that decision. And if you didn't know that that was the case, maybe ask yourself why the facility that your loved one is at has to notify you of a fucking hangnail on your grandmother's finger that they never told you that the person gave your grandmother her medications was just some chick off the street making $13.50 an hour. Why didn't they tell you that part? I'm guessing they don't tell you that because they know that the vast majority of people in the world will not accept that for their loved ones, and they don't want to hear you bitching about it. They don't want to have to listen to such nonsense. Sorry, I got a little off track. Now, why do you think that corporations would choose to practice this way? Because it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. That's the only rationalization that they need. So why the hell can't those dairy farmers live their lives the same way? If they can do it a little bit cheaper and nobody's the wiser, what's the big deal? What's with the double standard there? That pisses me off. Okay, guys, I know it's been crazy. It was a long video. I'm sorry. I'll get off my pedestal for now. I just wanted to talk about all this stuff, get it out there. If you're interested in the channel, if you enjoy the content, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And stay up, weirdos. Take it easy. Bye.